Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime.
Our commitment to our mission objectives only increases as our advantages continue to increase. We've got no shortage of munitions. Our stockpiles of defensive and offensive weapons allow us to sustain this campaign as long as we need to.
There comes a moment when a nation must act, not out of aggression, but out of duty. Today is that moment. Our forces are ready, our resolve is unbreakable, and the threat before us will not be allowed to stand. Every hour we move forward, our position strengthens. The enemy knows what is coming, and they cannot stop it. Offshore, aboard the US Tripoli and a fleet of supporting amphibious vessels, United States Marines moved with quiet precision. They methodically inspected their weapon systems, secured their equipment inside amphibious assault vehicles, and walked through final mission briefings one last time. Every man knew his role. Every man was ready. They stood poised to strike Iranian defensive positions along the Strait of Hormuz, advancing from the coastline to link up with airborne elements already converging on the objective. Meanwhile, deep in the heartland of America, at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, the 101st Airborne Division's Air Assault Brigade entered its final hours of preparation. 4,000 of the Army's finest soldiers formed up outside their barracks in the pre-dawn darkness. They moved with the quiet efficiency of warriors who had trained for exactly this moment, loading rucksacks with spare uniforms, field rations, hygiene supplies, first aid kits, extra ammunition, and water reserves. Body armor plates were slammed into carriers and tested. Helmet straps were tightened. Tactical vests were cinched down. M4 carbines and squad automatic weapons were slung into position. Every strap, every buckle, every piece of kit was checked twice. On the flight line, crew chiefs and door gunners ran through their own preparations. Belt after belt of 7.62 ME ammunition was fed into the M240 machine guns mounted on the doors of 60 Blackhawks and the ramps of CH-47 Chinooks. Fuel loads were confirmed. Navigation systems were synced. The birds were ready. Captain James Harland walked the length of the formation, calm, composed, deliberate. He moved from platoon to platoon, offering measured words and steady reassurance to every leader he passed. Behind him, Chief Petty Officer Marcus Hayes worked the assault teams, quietly checking equipment, adjusting gear, and speaking directly to each soldier with the quiet confidence of a man who had done this before. When the final checks were complete, the 4,000 soldiers formed into disciplined columns and began their march toward the flight line. The rhythmic sound of boots striking concrete echoed across the base as they moved toward the waiting fleet of helicopters, rotors already beginning to turn, engines warming in the darkness. 60 Blackhawks and CH-47 Chinooks stretched across the tarmac in every direction, a fleet large enough to move an entire brigade in a single lift. One by one, the chalk loads boarded. Inside the Blackhawks, soldiers filled the canvas seats along the fuselage walls, their gear stacked between their boots. Crew chiefs moved through the cabins, securing loose equipment and conducting final head counts. In the larger Chinooks, heavy weapons, vehicles, and additional troops were loaded through the yawning rear ramps. When the last man was aboard and the last ramp sealed shut, the rotors accelerated. The deep, resonant thump of rotor blades filled the Kentucky sky. And then, one after another, the helicopters lifted off. The massive air armada climbed, formed up, and stretched across the horizon. Dozens of aircraft moving as one, a force that had no equal. The 101st Airborne Air Assault Brigade was wheels up and on its way. Hours passed. The formation crossed open water. And then, as the coastline of the objective area came into view, the air assault began in full force. Blackhawks came in fast and low, flaring at the last moment over designated landing zones. Soldiers fast roped to the ground or stepped off skids the instant wheels touched earth. Chinooks thundered in behind them, rear ramps dropping before the aircraft had fully settled, releasing torrents of troops, sling-loaded vehicles, and heavy equipment onto the objective. Within minutes, 4,000 soldiers were on the ground, forming into assault teams and pushing forward, covered from above by door gunners who swept every tree line and ridge line. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Hayes was among the first boots on the ground. He rallied his teams with hand signals and controlled shouting, leading them forward into the chaos with absolute focus. At the same moment, Marine assault elements from the amphibious force reached the coastline and pushed inland. Army Rangers who had secured nearby sectors hours earlier began converging on the main objective. The link-up was seamless. Captain James Harland ran the entire operation from a forward command post, coordinating air assets, ground elements, and logistics in real time. The US Tripoli remained on station offshore, providing logistical support, medical evacuation capability, and rapid response firepower whenever it was needed. The combined force, Army, Marines, Rangers, and naval assets, moved together with unstoppable momentum. Blackhawks circled overhead, delivering close air support. Chinooks made return trips with fresh ammunition, water, and reinforcements. On the ground, assault teams systematically cleared bunker complexes, radar installations, and missile launch sites, methodically dismantling every defensive position, one by one. The Iranian defenders, caught between the air assault descending from above and ground forces closing from multiple directions, had no answer. Their defensive lines collapsed under the pressure. One position after another fell. Rangers and Marines locked down the outer perimeter while the 101st Airborne drove through the center, seizing command posts, destroying the last of the missile infrastructure, and eliminating any remaining resistance. Within hours of the first helicopter touching down, the entire objective area was under full American control. The last major threat to the Strait of Hormuz had been eliminated. The moment was historic. Silence fell over the captured coastline, the kind of silence that only comes after a battle has been decided. And then, cutting through that silence, came a sound that no one who heard it would ever forget. The deep, triumphant horn of the first oil tanker as it moved through the strait, freely, safely, unimpeded for the first time in weeks. Dozens more followed in its wake. Crewmen lined the railings of their ships, waving toward the coastline as they spotted the American flag flying over positions that had been enemy territory just hours before. Captain James Harland walked slowly among his troops on the secured coastline. He shook hands with Chief Petty Officer Marcus Hayes. He embraced the commanders of the 101st Airborne, the Rangers, and the Marine assault elements. Around them, soldiers sat in small groups, some quiet, some smiling, all of them exhaling for the first time in days. As the sun descended toward the horizon, painting the strait in long shades of gold and amber, a single shared feeling settled over every man and woman on that beach: pride, relief, and the deep unspoken knowledge that they had done something that would matter for generations. Captain James Harland keyed his radio one final time. His voice carried across every channel, calm and certain. Mission complete. All final positions are secured. The Strait of Hormuz is open. We are coming home. The American flag snapped in the warm coastal breeze. Freedom sails on.